Hey there chess fans, how's it going? I'm Tushar from Chess Vitals and today we're going to take a look at the Ruy Lopez. So without any further delay, let's get on. Alright, so the Ruy Lopez starts with the move e4, black response e5. In the high level you'll possibly see c5 or c6, but it's a fine move. Then you'll develop your kingside knight attacking the e5 pawn. Then you'll see moves like c6, knight c6, defending it, and you go bishop b5, and it's an immediate threat. You might wonder why, and the reason is after you take the knight, the e5 pawn is up for grabs. Nothing is protecting that pawn except that knight, and by taking the knight, you also damage black structure. Two pawns on the same file doesn't look good. So it's a threat. Now, how can obviously black respond to it? Now, one of the line goes bishop c5. Now, perhaps you might ask, why this move? It doesn't get rid of that threat. So, if you take the pawn or d file takes back, and then if you try to be greedy and take the pawn, look at this, an astonishing move, queen to d4, and now you're attacking the knight, the pawn, and threatening mating one. So you're gonna have to retreat to obviously d3, otherwise that's pretty awful position. Then you take the pawn back, you get your material back, and you give a check. And if black's king moves to the f file, it loses the right to castle. And even if it puts his queen forward, you take, he takes back, and he still doesn't have the right to castle. You might have a hanging bishop or the damaged pawn structure, but his king is right in the middle of the board, so it's extremely painful. And now we're going to talk about another defense to the Ruy Lopez, which is known as the fianchetto defense. You just play the move g6, preparing to play g7. Well, it's a move, but it's not that common, and you shouldn't try it because it doesn't make sense and it actually worsens the position for black. So you shouldn't try this defense. Now another defense I saw Magnus play against a person named Max Deutsch. He wanted to master chess in 30 days. Magnus went for this cozier defense, putting the knight on the e7. So even if he takes, the knight is replaced by the knight on the e7. You can check out that match. Agadmator covered it. And now another line we're going to talk about is the Berlin defense. Well, Berlin defense deserves a video on its own, but I'm going to give you a brief overview. So after this, you just play knight f6, attacking the pawn, completely ignoring that after bishop takes knight, the pawn is hanging, because still we have that maneuver. If he takes, we go here, he needs to go back. This time we don't have a mating threat, but yeah, we go back, we take with a check, and he loses the right to castle. It's complete anarchy in here. So typically you'll see probably white developing the knight on c3, protecting it. Well, it's pretty complicated and it deserves a video on its own. So we're going to bring a video out on the Berlin defense really soon. And now let's talk about the most common reply to the Ruy Lopez opponent. Why do you put the knight always? And now there comes the move, the most common move in this position, a6, attacking the bishop, forcing it to go back. So now the bishop has two options, either to capture or to go back. So if it captures, you definitely take with the d pawn, and white shouldn't take the pawn before solidifying his own structure. He can go the knight, and he can castle, he can push d3. White has infinite options, but he shouldn't take the pawn right away. So after strengthening the structure, if the pawn is still hanging, you can go take it. No worries. I think I'm gonna show you a variation here, the Mackenzie variation, but that is a pretty aggressive variation and it deserves a video on its own. It is so effective and it's not that common, so your opponent won't know how to respond to it, and you can get pretty good position from it, and you can enjoy your game from there. Ruy Lopez doesn't need to be this plain Ruy Lopez. You can go aggressive, you can play attack, so it may prefer your playing styles. So I'm not going to cover it in this video. Khan will take care of it in the next video. So what if you decide to retreat? So you go back to a4, and now white may obviously can go b5, and it's a move, but it's not the best move in the position, but it is a move obviously. So after this you go bishop b3, eyeing down the weak f7 pawn. So if black tries to push with these pawns, you just push a3, make a hole for your bishop in the a file, and if an attack comes, you can obviously retreat. Let's say the attack doesn't come. Black develops his knight, and it can be a huge mistake. Yeah, this pawn is hanging, but let me show you how to punish this move. You can go here, trying to play the fried liver setup. So after the pawn is taken, you can go here. So now he cannot take the knight back, so he loses the rook if he goes for it. And if it was like core fried liver setup, then you'd probably see something like, after this knight is sacrificed, the kings come in, the queen gives a check and regains material, and black's position is really worsened by just one move. The fried liver attack is pretty terrible and brutal for the black side. And if he doesn't play this move, he can go probably like the engine suggests knight f6, obviously this move. It also suggests d6, solidifying, and he'll probably go for pawn g6, bishop g7. And the thing is, if he goes this move, well, you should first try to solidify your own pawn so that it doesn't stay hanging. Then probably you can go for such ideas. But there's an idea for black in here. After he develops that bishop, he can obviously castle. And I have seen this a lot of players play, that you take the pawn, exchange the rook, take the rook, the king's take back. So the king obviously wastes a move, but you're exchanging two minor pieces for a rook. It's not that great. You can obviously let him exchange, but I don't think that's quite preferable, because two minus pieces come in handy and it's a lot better than having a single rook in the game. So if your opponent doesn't play the bishop right ahead, and if he goes something like a waiting move as such, then you should go for that flight lever setup. Go for knight g5 and then take, and if he then decides to develop his rook, develop his bishop and then castle, you can obviously get the queen. So that's quite a win-win situation. not win-win, he loses but you win some material. So that would be a great game for you. I think that's it for today's video. If you like the video, a sub to the channel would be awesome. Tackle the subscribe button to the ground as if it fled with your crush. Nice to meet you. Hope to see you guys in the next video. Until then, stay hungry, stay full.